Okay, so we're going to need a t-shirt, elastic, pins, scissors, 2 types of bobbin thread, 2 types of thread. We're going to use the elastic to shape the neckline of the shirt and then pin it down. And then try it on and make sure everything aligns how you'd like it to fit. Now we're going to use our scissors to cut along the seam as well as the seam of the arm and the neckline that we just created with the elastics. Now we're going to cut out our back piece, which is just straight along the back of the t-shirt. And there are front and back pieces of our tank top. Unpinning the details that were used before, we're going to use 1 piece of elastic that's going to be the top neckline. This is going to be pieced right sides together, and if there's a detail on the elastic, it'll be facing down. Now switch your machine to zigzag, and the length and width is up to you, and we're going to be using a blue thread for this part. Starting with a back stitch, we're going to sew along, making sure that the shirt and the elastic are both getting caught by the stitch. At the neckline, just pivot it, but make sure again that everything's getting caught by the stitch. Now turning around, we're going to snip all the extra fabric that might be poking through and make sure our stitch has caught both fabrics. We're going to mark our center front with a pin just so we can still identify it once the elastic's been flipped over. Now flipping over the elastic, we're going to pin this down so we can prepare it to iron. Ironing this part down will make it a little easier to sew for the next step. Now snip the extra elastic. And white thread and blue bobbin for this part. Now just zigzag with back stitch like we did before and making sure that you have the white thread. Now we're going to go to where we marked the center front and do a little diagonal stitch as shown in the diagram. We're going to use a straight stitch for this part and go back and forth a lot because this stitch can take a lot of pressure. Now we're moving on to the front details. However you place the elastic is how we're going to sew it down, so this is just a preference thing. You might want to try it on during this stage as well. And for this stage, blue thread is important. And switching it back to zigzag, again, however you did it before, you can do the same stitch. And we're going to top stitch this, starting with a back stitch, and just top stitch along, again, not pulling the fabric, not pulling the elastic. When you sew the second piece on, it should overlap with the end of the first piece, and then just sew this one exactly the same how you did before. Now we're ready to sew the back piece and the front piece together. So pin starting with the hemline just to make sure that those line up correctly. White thread, white bobbin for this part. Starting again at the hemline, back stitching, you're going to zigzag stitch this to attach the 2 pieces together. We're going to use our scissors to cut away any excess, leaving about 1/2 centimeter. During this part, it's good to try on the tank top and see how much you want to take it in at the sides. Now just trim away and smooth the line from the neck to the back piece. Because I don't have a serger, I like to do an extra zigzag stitch along the outside of the seam. Placing the elastic the same way we did for the front with the peacock down and the right sides together, we're going to pin where we want our back elastic to lay. I did mine a little down, but that's just a preference of how you want the back to be for your tank top. Now using blue thread, we're going to do the same zigzag stitch that we've done before, following the elastic, not pulling on either the shirt or the elastic during this stitch. And again, trimming all the extra that's poking through to make sure nothing is coming through from underneath the elastic. And same as for the neckline, we're going to fold over that elastic and pin it down. Now it's time for the bow. I went with the smaller one and I'm just going to hand sew it onto the tank top in the center there, and it also does a good job at covering the overlap of the elastics. Now it's time to attach the straps, and we're going to trim away a little extra there and then place the elastic down, pinching it to see if it'll match up, and then just doing a little straight stitch back and forth a few times along there. Now again, just trimming all the extra thread, and I'm going to trim back some of the elastic so it's not so bulky as well. And then I'm going to hand stitch this part down because I feel like it gives me a cleaner finish. Now try it on to determine the length and where you want the straps to hit the back. For sewing the back strap, I like to do a little square because I feel like it gives a lot of support on an area that does take a lot of tension. And then I just trim the elastic and whatever thread's left over, and then you're all done.